Hey everybody, Jake here from Bearded Gear, and it's full review time plus unboxing time in an interesting way. This is my Keanison Stray Flipper, and this is my first real custom, like handmade custom folder, and we're going to talk about it. I have really enjoyed this knife, but like I said, there's an unboxing happening as well. I just got this package this morning from my buddy Ryan. He's my partner for Left Concepts, and he, on the weekends, helps out at Keanison Knives. He works with them over there doing a bunch of stuff, really. But he put together this package for me. I think some of this he purchased for me from them, which is really nice and generous of them, of him to do as a gift. But then he also included a new case for this knife. They come in a little hard shell case, and this one is older for their knives. They've made a lot of knives since this one, and they've updated the cases to be nicer. And so he sent me one of the brand new, really nice cases from Keanison to go with this knife. And I think there's a hat in here and maybe something else. So we're going to check it all out, and then we're going to talk about this knife. So I have not used this all that much because it's mirror polished and then black oxide finished, and it's just freaking gorgeous. But I've used it a little for stuff like this, and that's going to be my comfort level for the moment of using this knife is going to be stuff like tape and paper. And I may get to a point where I'll find myself okay with using it hard, and then just come what may, maybe I'll have it refinished eventually or something. But it's this gorgeous mountain mai, sand mai, and the finishing on it is incredible. So I haven't wanted to be mean to it yet. All right, let's get in here. Sick. Right off the bat, I'm stoked with the color of this hat. From what I can see, it's camo, and I wear a lot of camo. This is very Keanison. Let me get these stickers out of here. So it's a camo hat. It says "Come and take it," with an alpha on it, and yeah, I dig camo. We've got Keanison knives over here. Love that. This is a sweet hat. I am absolutely gonna wear this. Nice snapback. Very cool. So Keanison hat will get a lot of use. Then we've got some stickers. Keanison Knives Canine sticker. That's one of their models. And we've got the, looks like that's the alpha in the dog's mouth there. And then we've got the stray and the stray pup, which is rad. So their stickers, obviously, you can tell, are all dog themed because, as I learned in my podcast with Brian from Keanison Knives, the names of their knives are all dog themed, and even the name of their company is a mashup of, I think, two of their dogs. So pretty freaking rad. Right, here is the case. Let me make sure before I set this down that I've got everything out of it. Yeah, that's just packing peanuts. All right, sweet. So here's the new case for the knife. Yeah, this is way nicer. It's just a sturdier plastic right off the bat. Now it's numbered. Mine is knife number 46. And they laser these in-house from what I understand. So they customize them there. And yeah, that's sweet. Really nice. You've got obviously their logo inside of the state of Texas. And that's very much their style. Let's see. I think, oh dude, what? Okay, so in here, there's a Come and Take It Keanison patch. That's super exciting and awesome. And a Keanison coin. I feel like I didn't even know they were making these, but you've got it looks like it's bronze or brass, and it's got the dog with the alpha in its mouth, like the sticker on there. And then this side you've got their logo in the state of Texas. And man, this is rad. This is really cool. I like that it's not a huge coin either. I feel like so many challenge coins are just massive for no reason. This I will absolutely carry sometimes and just put in my coin pocket, especially if I'm carrying the stray, and just fidget with it, because I don't find that I'm huge into challenge coins, but I do like every now and then, especially if I'm on a long drive or something, instead of flicking my knife, if my wife is in the car, she'll get mad at that. I can just sit there and kind of roll a coin between my fingers and play with it. So really, really cool of them. I think that's it in here. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything else in this. Double check under the foam. Yeah, all right, so brand new case with a patch and a coin in it. So huge thanks to my buddy Ryan for putting this all together, and of course Keanison. I had a super fun time talking with Brian on the podcast. He's a great dude, and I was thrilled to have that opportunity to talk to him, especially while I've got one of his custom knives. And yeah, so let's talk about the knife itself. So this is a Stray Flipper. At Keanison, they make 100 of each model, and then they discontinue it forever. They won't make more than 100 of any knife that they make. So this one is number 46. They've already made all 100 of the Stray Flipper. There are no more being made. All the Stray Flippers that will ever exist have already been produced, right? They're all also, from what I understand, fairly different because they're a handmade custom knife shop. They're doing them one at a time based on what people are ordering, or I think some of them they're doing maker's choice and they're lottoing or whatever, but they're all fairly unique. So this one was already a relatively unique build. And then after it was built, you can listen to the podcast to hear the whole story of what exactly happened with this knife. But basically it was supposed to go overseas, didn't end up going overseas, and then came back because it just wasn't received over there. Took a long time, finally got back, and then it got purchased by my buddy who I traded this knife. I traded for this knife. I traded in my whole haptic for this. And when he got it, he had it sent to a modder who actually the guys at Keanison know and are cool with, and Brian kind of like gave his blessing as one of the modders who he'd be okay with touching one of his knives and modifying it. And that guy changed the finishing on the scales, the clip, and the blade. So everything finishing wise changed. So that's really exciting that it's gone through all of that, and by someone who Keanison is cool with doing that. So like the warranty isn't voided. If I needed to send this knife into Keanison for something, they'd still be cool with it, which is a big plus. So the finish on these scales, I believe he calls his dirty finish, the guy who modded it. And then the clip is like orange peeled, but it's like a shiny orange peel. And then the blade is really the big conversation piece. So it's mirror polished and then black oxide finished. And it is wild, especially with this Mountain Mai, San Mai. For more info on that, you can listen to the podcast as well. Brian talked at length about where this San Mai came from and why it's the way that it is. But it looks really, really cool. You've basically got this line through it, kind of like a lightning bolt type looking thing, just striking through the blade. And the black oxide, it gives it this like almost deep brown finish, but keeping like it's almost black. It's like a brownish gray, and then it's still mirror polished underneath it. And it's, oh man, it is different and unique, and I freaking love it. So like I said, I haven't cut much with this knife, but I've carried it a good few times now, and I've been fairly gentle with it because it's really nice and really expensive, and it's a custom. And like I said, I may get to a point where eventually I'll be okay with like really cutting stuff with it, but at the moment I'm just enjoying it in its pristine state for a while, and so maybe we'll get there. But let's talk about ergos, carry, action, all that kind of typical stuff for me. And the little bit of cutting I have done with it, it's very sharp. It's thin behind the edge. It cuts well. I have no worries about this knife not performing should I decide to take that plunge and use it, but we'll kind of leave cutting out because I haven't put it through like the proper paces that I normally would on a knife to be able to really talk about it from a real place of experience. Let me go ahead and wipe this blade down too. I'm going to use my brand new MB Wild Renegade EDC Hank that I just unboxed right before this. All right, so this blade picks up smudges like crazy. Let's start with ergos. Ergonomically, I dig this knife a lot. It's not like the most ergonomic dream of a knife that I've ever handled, but it's really, really comfortable in hand. With the thickness of the blade stock, one of the things that comes with that, because it's a really thick blade, is you inherently have kind of a wide space between the scales. And that space seems extra wide here because the titanium isn't super thick, which I'm glad they didn't do, because this knife would get really thick really quick if they were adding thickness to these scales. But it's a fairly simple titanium construction. In fact, it's really simple. You've got a standoff back here, and then you've got the blade and the pivot up here. So really there's just 2 points keeping these scales separated. The scales themselves are contoured really, really well. It's not crazy contouring, but it's enough that it's very noticeable. All the edges are knocked down really well. There's nothing sharp on this knife. Even this point up here, it's a little pokey, but it hasn't caused any problems. It feels much softer than many other frame locks. So yeah, the profile of this handle, I find my finger wants to go right here into this kind of groove, and then the rest of it is just crazy neutral. There's no jimping anywhere on the knife, which I love, so everything is super smooth. It's very comfortable to put my thumb up here because the blade stock is so thick. It just creates a nice flat landing spot, and it's just, in a saber grip, super comfortable. I can feel the clip in my hand, but it's not poking or prodding me in an uncomfortable way. I can just feel that it's there. In a draw cut, also very, very comfortable. This handle is just neutral enough that hammer grip, saber grip, draw cut, all comfortable. Reverse grip, very comfortable. Reverse grip, draw cut, very comfortable. There's no uncomfortable way that I've found to hold this knife. And so I really, really like that. The contouring too is just a big contributor to how comfortable this knife feels, I think. So beyond that, ergonomically it's great. Let's talk action. Action on this knife is a lot of fun. It's not like a Shiro or a Holt or my Arius. It's not like bananas in the action, but it's really, really smooth and just feels really, really nice. So with the flipper tab, it's a nice big flipper tab, as you can see. That might bother some people. On this design, it really doesn't for me, especially because there's no jimping on it anywhere. It's nice and smooth. But with the flipper tab, it's just a nice, smooth, satisfying deployment. The detent is tuned really well. On closure, it's not drop shutty, but it's really smooth and it's almost drop shutty. I mean, it's close, right? Like just a few little wiggles and the blade goes right back down. Plus, you have the hole, as you can see. I have stickers and shirts that say holes are greater than studs. My favorite deployment method is the hole. So I like that on this knife, just like any other knife. The fact that I can middle finger flick it makes it especially exciting for me. I tend to use my fingernail on deployment, and then just, it's a super smooth, easy flick. The detent is dialed well for it, which is impressive because oftentimes dialing a detent for both a flipper and a hole can be a little bit of a challenge. I find sometimes knives with holes, you want the detent to be a little bit lighter than you would with a flipper. And so if there's a flipper, it might be too difficult to middle finger flick, or it might be perfect for middle finger flicking, but then it's kind of light for the flipper. This one genuinely feels excellent for both. So I love the way the detent is dialed. I love both deployment methods. It's just, it works really, really well. You can, of course, also thumb flick. I have a hard time doing it though, because I'm just not great at thumb flicking knives with holes in general. I just don't practice much because if it has a hole, I'm going to be middle finger flicking it. But it works just fine here. Yeah, so action is very, very good. Again, not like out of this world exciting type of action, but it's fun to fidget with. It feels very nice. And I don't know, the action just kind of feels, maybe it's because I know how expensive this knife is, but it feels kind of high end to me. Of course, I just fail it as I said that because I tried to do it loose. But yeah, I mean, it feels really, really nice. I dig it. So the action is great. That leaves us with carry. So carry on this knife, the one thing that you'll notice about it, I'll say, is that it's fairly heavy in its sensation. The titanium isn't milled internally, and the blade stock is just really, really thick. So especially kind of down at this end, where it's meatiest, it just feels like a pretty heavy knife. And it is. I mean, it's not trying to be super lightweight or anything, but it carries really comfortably. The contouring and the smoothness everywhere really helps. Even though this flipper tab is pretty big, it hasn't bothered me in pocket. I think, again, because there's no jimping on it, that really helps. The pocket clip on here, it's not going to be deep carry. You can see it's going to leave, what, that much sticking out of your pocket. I would love it if it was deep carry. That is my preference, but this pocket clip has functioned really, really well for me. In and out of pocket, it's smooth. It's got good enough retention. I haven't had any issues with feeling like this knife is going to slip out of my pocket or anything like that. And so when you couple the smoothness of everything with a pocket clip that just functions well, it feels very nice. I think if this knife weighed an ounce less and had a deep carry pocket clip, then yeah, it would be dreamier in pocket, sure. But this knife feels robust on purpose. You know, like sometimes there are knives that are going for lightweight, and other times there are knives that aren't. And this one isn't. It's not going for lightweight. It's not trying to be featherweight EDC knife. It is robust in just about every dimension. It's purposely robust. And so you can feel that in pocket a little bit, but it's comfortable while being robust because it is smooth and because everything is rounded, and it all comes together pretty well. So I don't think that this knife is like a perfect knife, but I think this knife is an exciting knife. It excites me. I love the way it looks. I like the way it feels. I like the way that the action feels. I just, like, you name it, any feature about this knife, I like it. I don't find that I think it's the best tool, but I don't think it's trying to be. It's a pretty artistic custom with incredible finishing. I also think if this one was like all user finishes everywhere, if instead of being a mirror polished San Mai blade, if this was just like a nice premium steel and it was stone washed or satin, I'd probably have a pretty easy time in that case using this knife hard, and I bet it would be great in use in that way, but it's not. And so I'm not going to go that route with it. One thing I just realized I totally forgot to mention, and I don't know how, in ergos, this forward choil is money. I really, really like this forward choil, and it's exceptional for choking up in a grip like this. For my finger, it is like perfectly sized, and it just feels incredibly comfortable and gives me this really cool grip where my whole hand is now choked up and I've got this great control over the blade. That is awesome about this knife. I love that forward choil. Yeah, so I guess I'm a little all over the place with this one, probably because partially I haven't had my traditional review experience with it, in the sense that normally I use knives a lot more before talking about them in a full review. But this one is just so pretty. It's just so nice. I really, really like it. And it makes me also, so this knife and my podcast with Brian both make me more interested in trying more of their knives, because I love this thing. It is a fantastic knife. But this is the first model that they came out with, and it's in the first half of the run of them, right? So they made this knife a while ago, and since that time, they have new designs that they're making, and even more to come, I'm sure. And it makes me want to try some of their newer stuff, because I would be thrilled to see how they've even improved on this formula, because this is an awesome custom knife. Yeah, so I don't know. I really dig it. I think the guys at Keanison are cool. I think this knife is awesome looking. It's awesome functionally. It feels great. And yeah, it's sweet. So I guess that'll be that. I guess that's my full review on the Keanison Stray Flipper. And thanks again to Ryan, my buddy, for sending me this box of goodies. I'm stoked about it, and it's going to make me enjoy this knife even more, that I've got a hat to go with it, and all these stickers and a patch and a challenge coin and a brand new, really nice case for it. It feels proper for a knife of this caliber. In fact, I'm probably going to store it in that really nice case, just in one of my drawers, rather than in my case you can see behind me, because this knife is a different caliber. That feels right. Anyway, thanks for checking out, guys. See you on the next one.